What's up, everybody? This is the Booch, and welcome to episode 5 of my hit show, Booch Shoots On. And this week is obviously going to be a lighter topic than what I delved into last week. Hopefully, you guys weren't offended enough and were able to be here for this one, because this one's actually going to be really good. This one's entitled, Booch Shoots On, Booch Eats a Car. Now, for those of you who may not know, and I would be shocked if you didn't know this, if you're a fan of mine, but for those of you who may not know, last year I had a documentary that aired on Adult Swim entitled Booch Eats a Car. And it documented a 2-year journey that I took as I attempted to eat a car. Yes, you heard that correctly. I attempted to eat a car. A red 1991 Ford Festiva. I was trying to eat it. And obviously the documentary chronicled everything from, coming up with the idea to going to the doctor to eating the car to actually doing shows in front of people where I would eat the car and the media coverage that got picked up from it and everything else, all the way to the climactic end of the documentary and everything in between. And this particular episode of Booch Shoots On is not going to be a review of the documentary. I'm not going to do that because obviously if there are those of you who haven't seen it yet, I want you to see it, and I want you to check it out if and when it airs again. And obviously I want you guys to be able to judge for yourselves how you feel about it. So my goal for this video is to kind of give some behind the scenes stuff and a little bit of the backstory into how all this came about. And basically, a few years ago, I was dealing with a lot of problems that I was having in my career. My career was not where I wanted it to be, and I had a lot of great blessings in my life as a comedian, as a radio personality, as YouTuber, social media person, whatever. I was on the Regular Guys show for 4 years. I did 2 seasons of Daytime Fighting League on Adult Swim, and I made appearances on the Don Geronimo show, multiple ones, gained a good fan base through that. So I had a lot of good moments happen to me. But as great as all these moments were, even being part of UCW and being on Fight TV and everything else, as great as all those moments were, they didn't get me to where I wanted to be in my life and in my career. I couldn't reach the next level, as I called it. Like, there's that phrase, when an entertainer breaks the glass ceiling. Some of you might have heard that. Well, I was always able to hit the ceiling, but I could never break it. And I felt like no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get my career to where I wanted it to be and where I knew it should be, and to be the guy that I knew I was capable of being, the talent that I knew I was capable of being, and I just couldn't get it there, and so I was trying to figure out, okay, what else is left for me to do? What else can I do? I've been doing pretty good as a stand-up. I've been in radio, I've been on TV, I've been doing everything. What else can I possibly do? And while I was going through this, a buddy of mine gave me this book, and the book was entitled Car by Harry Crews. And in the book, it talks about a guy who actually was trying to eat a car. Now, the book itself was just a fictional book. But when I read this book, even though up to this point I had never thought about eating a car, the thought of eating a car never once entered my mind. I wasn't one of those guys that was like, oh, that Vinny, he used to chew on Hot Wheels when he was a kid. That wasn't me. I was not a eat a car kind of guy up until this point. But once I read the book, I started relating to this character, because this guy was talking about depressing things going on in his life and feeling like his life didn't amount to anything, and he was stuck in a rut and working a job that he hated and doing all this other stuff, and now he felt like eating this car gave him a purpose. And as I started reading this book, I related so much to the main character that I finally just decided, you know what? maybe this is it. Let me give this a shot. And that's when I came up with the idea to want to eat a car. And obviously I had to do, research on it. I had to consult with a doctor. Did a bunch of other things. If you've seen the documentary, you'll notice that. I talked to a doctor. It wasn't like I said, I'm going to eat a car and then ran outside and started chewing on the bumper. No, I did research. I thought this out. I went to a doctor to see medically, could it be done? What's the safest way to do it? Now, obviously, the doctor, the first thing he tells me is not to do this. By law, he has to recommend this is a bad idea. But if you're going to do it, here's what you can do. And then I also knew that I wanted to document this. Because obviously, if I just do it if I'm just eating a car and no one sees it, then I'm just wasting my time. So I wanted to document this. But I also knew I didn't want to use my camcorder, even though I had a good, HD camera. I didn't want it to look like I was filming a home movie. I wanted the production to look professional. So since I had a friendship with the School of Humans, because I did so well with Daytime Fighting League, I developed a great relationship with the School of Humans and working behind the scenes with them, especially since they loved my audition. They loved what I did in season 1. They brought me back for season 2. They were doing all sorts of stuff. So I went to Chad Crowley, who is the main boss at the School of Humans. He's one of the directors of the documentary. The other is, of course, Cole Cassell, who is a extremely talented guy, become another one of my really good friends. And I went to Chad and I asked him, I told him what I wanted to do. And like most people, at first he kind of looked at me like, what the fuck? Like, most people look at me like that. But when I explained to him why I wanted to do it and what I was doing and the plans that I had and everything, I saw him get very, very intrigued. And he said, hell yeah, this is something we would love to do. So I got the School of Humans behind me to help me film it. And they basically helped me with the production side of everything, because all I cared about was eating the car. That was my goal. But I needed help at presenting it. You wanted to present it in such a way to where people want to watch it. Because that's one of the things about documentaries that people don't know or understand. And I had to learn this. Because even though a documentary is capturing real moments in real time, at the same time, when you present it, it has to flow in the style of a movie. Because if I just sat in a room, like I'm doing right now, and just ate car pieces for an hour and a half, you get bored after 20 minutes. So I had to rely on them to kind of help me with stuff that I wasn't seeing. Like, hey, we should also tell your story, because the story you're telling me on why you want to do this is interesting. So I told my story, so it's a story on me. Even though I'm eating a car, the bulk of it is about my story, why I'm taking this journey, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And they were very helpful in that. And they were also helpful in, teaching me when you eat the capsules, because I would grind the pieces up, put them in capsules. He would say, hey, hold the capsule like this so we can see it going in. So we can see you putting it in your mouth, or, hold it in a special way. Like, they would teach me this stuff, because I didn't know it. I was not aware of all this stuff and how it worked. But they had experience in film. So they helped me present what I wanted to do. So they would critique me in that regard, but everything else was me. The talking was me, the show was me, my performance was me, everything was me. They just helped me present it with the post-production and everything and putting it together, and us sitting there and them showing me, hey, here's what we're going to put, here's what we're going to put, or certain scenes that I would shoot on my own that I thought were really good, and then they would tell me, well, we can't really use this because it doesn't help with the story. Like, those were things I need to be educated on. Because there was some things I shot on my own. Like, I remember I did a scene where with Southside Steve, who's a really good friend of mine. Because in one of the scenes, we go to this place called Jimmy's Tequila and Carnes, which is a restaurant that was near the Oasis, the strip club, here in Georgia. And they were using the parking lot. I originally went there just to visit Steve, because Steve was doing his he would host weekly rock and roll shows there, and there'd be cover bands and tribute bands there doing stuff. So I went to go see Steve, hung out with Steve. Hey, how you doing, buddy? And I went to the bathroom, and I saw a sign that said car and bike show. And I went, holy shit. They were doing a car and bike show, and I thought, this is a perfect place to do and eat a car show. So I went to Steve about it, and I said, hey, I told him what I was doing. Like everybody else, he went, what the fuck? But then I explained it to him, and he went, okay, that's cool. And I said, can you help me talk to Jimmy and set this up? And he said, sure. So we went to talk to Jimmy. Jimmy loved it. He approved it. I got the answer I needed. And then I just went down there, and then we went down there, and we did a show. We found a time to do a show, find the right time so we didn't interfere with anything else that they were doing, get a crowd together, and it worked. But at the time that I did all this, I didn't have a camera with me because I wasn't going to bring a camera crew to go meet Steve. I thought it'd be weird. And also, Steve's a friend of mine. I don't want to shove a camera in his face. I don't want to be a dick. But I realized I wanted that moment on tape. So Steve and I got together. So I called Southside Steve and said, hey, can we shoot a scene together? He said, yeah, we went to the Brooklyn Cantina because that's where him and his wife go sometimes to hang out. So we went in there, we shot it, we shot a scene. And I'll admit, the entire conversation we had was 100% improv. The only thing that was scripted was the part where I ask him for help and he says yes. And the reason we had to do that was because in real life he'd already asked me. But I wanted to have that scene to kind of fill in the gap so it made sense. And also because I thought it would be cool to have Steve in the documentary. But unfortunately, after we got it shot, again, the School of Humans were like, it's not working for what we're doing. We can't use the scene. I tried to fight to get it in there, but it was a fight that I lost. And ultimately, I was, fine with that. I wasn't going to be a diva and, play politics or pull out a creative control card. I was like, you know what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So let's just tell the story. And then there was another time where Larry was in the documentary and he was helping me get the doors off. And at one point, we were playing this cops and robbers thing where I'm like, he wanted to play a carjacking game where I get in the car and then he bangs on the window like, he's like, open the fucking door, give me the keys, motherfucker. And then he bashes it and by accident he breaks the window and all this glass covers all over me and he gets his hand cut and he had to go to the urgent care facility. We wanted to keep that in there, but that didn't work. So that ended up on the cutting room floor. Which was a shame because Larry and I both enjoyed it because at first they wanted to put Larry in the documentary because Larry was and still is my showbiz mentor. So they really wanted to focus more on that and make that a big part of it because Larry Wax, regardless of what anybody wants to say about him, people have had good things to say, bad things to say, whatever side of the fence you choose to ride on, that's your decision. But I know that without Larry Wax, there is no Vinny Bucci. Larry Wax did a lot for me, more than most people know. That guy, he was the guy that put me on the show. He was the guy that kept me on the show. He was the guy that saw the potential in me when nobody else did at the time. And then eventually, as I was on the show, I would eventually win people over. I mean, of course, Tim Andrews and I, we were always tight from day one, so I'll illustrate that. Larry and Tim were like my two biggest supporters on that show in the beginning. And then eventually, after a couple of years, Southside Steve and I became friends. And then Eric, I would eventually get along with him. I actually get along better with Eric now than I did when he was on the show, believe it or not. About a year or so ago, I met him at I saw him at a barbecue joint. He was doing a Von Hessler remote, and we had a good conversation there. So everything's cool between me and EVH. But yeah, so I wanted to have some scenes like that in there, but they ended up on the cutting room floor for whatever reason. So obviously those were moments where, sometimes, production stuff would get in the way. But I was very, very open to ideas and stuff. And there were some ideas that, were great. And I was looking for whatever I could to help. But we made it a team effort. And we put all this together. And then once we got it done, originally our plan was to submit it to Sundance. So we had it done and ready to go, but we had to hold off on premiering it because we wanted to send it to Sundance Film Festival. And Sundance has a rule that says if you are going to submit a video to a Sundance Film Festival, it has to debut at the film festival. You can't have it on TV. You can't have it on in a movie theater. You can't have it streaming on the internet. You can't do any distribution of any kind until it premieres at Sundance. Otherwise, you are not qualified. So we had to wait. So even though we had it done, we had to wait till after February before we could do anything with it, because that was the deadline for Sundance Film Festival. So we submit it. Unfortunately, Sundance didn't pick it up. So then, when Sundance refused to show it, we went to Adult Swim because all of us already had a great working relationship with Adult Swim. Chad and Matt Hardigan had a great working relationship with DFL. I had a great relationship with Matt Hardigan because they brought me in for other Adult Swim segments over time. I did after I won my first round match, I did an interview on Stupid Morning Bullshit and did very well. Then I was brought back a second time for Stupid Morning Bullshit when I won the second round. Did really well. I did a couple of Fish Center. I was on Fish Center Live a few times. I had some good appearances, some not so good appearances. The last appearance I had, I think, was very, very good. So I was able to have fun with that. So I've done a lot of work with Adult Swim. So we thought they were the perfect people to show the documentary to. So we have a meeting with Matt Hardigan. We show it to him. He loves it instantly and wants to show it. So we did a little bit of promotion for it, but not as much as I would have liked. Obviously, we did some kind of a stunt to promote it. I will not say what the stunt is because it's a moment that some Adult Swim fans are going to comment underneath and tell you what the stunt is. I block it from my memory because it's something I don't want to talk about. But we do a promotion. But the only thing that bothered me was I wanted to promote it almost immediately. Like, I was going to call radio stations. I wanted to call podcasters that I know. Obviously, Joe Flo, because we were on 11 Alive. We got the late feed, picked it up, and aired it. So I thought we could promote it through them. But one of the rules is when Adult Swim owns something, all media has to go through them. So I tried to go through them so that I couldn't do anything promoted. I couldn't do anything with it because it was out of my hands because Adult Swim had it. But eventually they did set a premiere date. I promoted it as much as I could on social media. Once I got access to the trailer, I played the trailer. I put that up there. Everything went great. And we eventually had the premiere. And we had a big event in Marietta. Cole and Aaron, who was the boom sound guy. He was the guy that would hold the boom mic. And they found a place. We aired the documentary there. We had a good crowd of people that came out. Larry wanted to be there, but he was on a film set because he's Atlanta's #1 movie extra, so he was sadly not able to appear there. But so we had a great premiere and people came out and it got great reviews. There were people that loved it. There was a couple people who didn't like it, but that's to be expected. But overall, the feedback's been great. I know they did air it a second time, but they wouldn't air it again until Thanksgiving. And again, I only got 24-hour notice on that, so I had to promote stuff there and, get it out there. And as far as when they're going to air it again, I'm not sure. I know that I did have some talks with Adult Swim about doing more things. At one point, we were discussing another project. I won't say what it was, but we had to reschedule it because Matt had an important meeting, and then I ended up in the hospital over a kidney stone, so time just got away, and that hasn't come to fruition, at least not now. Whether it does again down the road, we'll see. But for now, nothing's really happening with that. But I was trying to, really figure out, what to do with the documentary because lately they are showing it, but they're not showing it a lot because it's not archived. It's not archived on Adult Swim. And Adult Swim told me the reason they didn't want to archive it is because it's so special and they love it so much, they wanted to air it quarterly and show and have big events surrounding it because they don't want people to get bored with it. They don't want people to get tired of it. They want people to enjoy it. They really love this documentary. They say it's probably one of the best, if not the best special that's aired in the history of the show, in the history of the company. And technically it's a documentary, but they call it a special on their show, so they call it a special. I call it a documentary. As a comedian, it's hard for me to say it's a special because when I think special, I think me on stage with a microphone telling jokes. So they call it a special. I call it a documentary. It's a little bit of both. But the one thing that's really drove me nuts, and just to be clear on one thing, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying here. I don't want people to think that I'm bashing Adult Swim in any way when I say this stuff because I'm not. I love Adult Swim. I'm very grateful to Adult Swim for airing my documentary, for having me on DFL, for wanting to do more projects with me. I have no hatred or bitterness towards Adult Swim. I've had nothing but great conversations and great talks with Matt Hardigan. I think what he does over at Adult Swim is fantastic. I love what they do. Max Simone is a great guy. Dave Bonowitz is a great guy. Chow, he's a good guy too. You know, the people over there. Sally Skinner, like, she is an incredible talent. Probably one of the kindest, nicest people I've ever met, which is saying a lot. And, you know, that the one thing I will say, though, that is frustrating me the most is the fact that the documentary is pretty much sitting in limbo. Like, at this point, I would rather it be archived just so I could show it to people. Like, that's been one of my biggest things, because I wanted to take this thing everywhere. I wanted to go to Dragon Con with it. I know sometimes Adult Swim goes to the New York and San Diego Comic Cons. I've been saying let's air it there. I want to get like a movie, go to the Strand, get a movie projector screen, air it there. There was a place on Panola Road where I used to do comedy for this guy Seven, who has a Respect My Hustle Productions. I would say, hey, can we take that, one of those movie theaters there, and show it there? Because I really want to get this out there to the people. And I wanted to promote it like crazy, you know, and I still want people to see it. And I think that's the most frustrating thing, is the fact that it's still sitting in limbo, and I want to get it out of there. But unfortunately, here's the thing. Adult Swim right now currently owns the documentary. They're apparently, from what, and this is what I heard from Aaron from the School of Humans. This is what he told me. Is that apparently from the time it aired, from the day that it aired, which was March 26th, 2019, for 18 months going forward, Adult Swim owns it. So that means for at least another 5-6 months, they're going to own it. 5 to 6 months. When that contract expires, we have the option to renew the contract with Adult Swim or take it and do something else with it. And all I know is when this meeting happens, one of the key things that I'm going to say is this. If we renew any contract with Adult Swim, I want set dates and times on when this is going to air. I want to know that people are going to be able to see this. I want to know that we can promote the shit out of this. And I want to know that we can get the masses to see it. Because I'm going to tell you something. This was a documentary that took a lot from me. Physically, mentally, emotionally, it took a lot. I don't know if anybody that's listening has ever actually attempted to eat an actual carb before, but it is not easy to do. And it is physically, mentally, and emotionally draining to do that. And I don't want all that work to go unnoticed or go down the drain. And that's what I think is frustrating me the most. You know, and I wish Adult Swim would do more with it and start airing it more, or even archive it so I can share it. Like, let people see this thing. I at this point, I just want people to see it. I want to be able to give it out to the masses. I want people to see this work, to know that there was an American attempting to eat a car, which something hasn't been done before, at least in America. Like, it's been done in Europe. A guy in Europe did it, but in America, no one's ever attempted to do this. This is a big fucking deal. And I really want people to watch it and see this moment that I had. And all I know is this. If we do end up not re-signing with Adult Swim and we get it back in our possession, I want to know what we have to do. Because like I said, the School of Humans are more knowledgeable in this area than me. But I want to be able to know, what can we do to get this thing out here? Like, what movie theaters do I have to call? Can we go to conventions like Dragon Con, Atlanta Comic Con, any other, Savannah Comic Con, anything around here that we can go to? Can we get any of the Comic Cons in New York and San Diego or Los Angeles or anywhere? Get a hold of these places where we can show this documentary. Find a movie theater that will let us do it. Find a venue. Bring people to it. Let me get a hold of, you know, the radio stations, the podcasters, the YouTubers, the, you know, 11 Alive, let's get with them, you know, or even Fox and MSNBC if they want to. Hell, I even talk on CNN and I don't even like them, you know, I'll go there, like, shit, let me promote this thing, let me show this thing to the people, because I really want people to see this. And I think that's what's frustrating me the most. You know, I don't feel like this documentary is getting a fighting chance to elevate my career. Who knows? Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But I at least want that opportunity for this documentary to pass and fail with the public, with the American people. I want you guys to be able to see this and then come back to me and tell me, Vinny, we loved it, or Vinny, it sucked. I'd rather hear from you guys. I want the opportunity to pass or fail. And with all due respect to Adult Swim and everything they've done for me and the love I have for those guys, I feel like right now they're not giving it a fair shake. And I hope that when this contract expires, we can make some changes to that. I also know that it can't happen without you guys either. So, you know, you guys can, the best thing you guys can do is talk to Adult Swim. Show them that you really want to see this. Show them that it's worth watching. And also, if we're able to show it to other places, show your support. Come out, see it. You know, if we're able to distribute it, purchase it, like get it, get this documentary, because I promise you, this is a must-see for anybody that, you know, if you're a fan of cars, if you're a fan of people eating strange shit, and most importantly, if you're a fan of the Booch. This is what you want to see, because this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, achievement of my life is attempting to eat this car. It was the biggest thing I'd done in my whole career, and I believe the world has the right to see it. All right, that, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up this episode of Booch Shoots On. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, ring the bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Booch Shoots On, as well as additional Vinny Bucci YouTube content. Check back soon for a new episode. Until then, pizza, baby!